This is my Amex green card, and I actually have two different iterations of the green card, one you've probably seen and one you probably have never seen before. The first one is the normal green card. If you apply for it, you'll get this one in the mail. Or the traditional green card that you probably have never seen before, and I'll tell you exactly why in just a few minutes of why I have this card in the first place. Oh, I guess if you're wondering why this one's kind of beaten up, it was nothing. You know, don't even worry about Don't worry about it at all. Okay, the Amex green card and I have kind of had a rocky relationship over the past 4 years, and that's why I'm making this video today. So there are the three main reasons why we're here today. So number one, the first reason is I want to take you through the story of my journey of getting the Amex green card back in 2020, the reasons I actually got the card, why I thought it was valuable at that time, and why when life changes, so do the cards that you actually carry in your wallet, and why just subsequently a couple of years later, why I eventually ended up canceling this card. And even then, I was a little bit too late, and I should have canceled it way sooner. Number two is why I actually think the card is a little bit more powerful today, now that I'm a lot more experienced. So for those of you who are thinking about getting into the world of American Express and starting with the green card, this video is definitely for you. And I guess number three is just going into why exactly I destroyed it in the first place. So it should be a fun one. Okay, so the dates are around July 10th, 2020. And you guys know what happened in 2020, right? Well, for me personally, I was in New York and we had a quarantine and we were locked down for at least 6 months, something like that. And with work being shut down and just having a lot of time on my hands, me and my girlfriend, my wife now at the time, were kind of traveling a lot more and trying to experience things because we knew we weren't going to get this kind of time off at pretty much any other time. And during this time, even though I was at least well over a year into my credit card journey, I didn't have that many cards yet, and I for sure was not already starting in the points and miles game, meaning booking hotels or booking flights with points and miles. At this time, I was basically exclusively only booking Airbnbs because I just liked the exclusive and eclectic properties that you could possibly book with Airbnb. And there was a time we were staying in an Airbnb pretty close to Saratoga Springs, and we were going to Lake George because we used to go there at least a couple times a year. And again, after being a little bit bored, I ended up looking around at credit cards, and what did I stumble across? I actually stumbled across the Amex green card, which nowadays we know this card has a $150 annual fee, but at that time in 2020, it was only $95 to open this card. And around that time, the welcome offer on the Amex green card, I'm pretty sure ranged between $15K and $45K at the high end. And while being just a little bit bored again and just scrolling through all of the benefits of this card, I landed upon the bonus bag multiplier right here, which is 3x on travel. And for those of you who are in like the American Express game, you know that there are very few cards, if any, that actually give you bonus bag multipliers on travel. Now, of course, we have the Amex Platinum card 5x travel and the Amex Gold card 3x travel, but this is going to be directly with the airlines themselves and or hotels, but only if you book through the Amex travel portal. The Amex green card is pretty much the only card that gives you 3x back on a widespread, generous category of travel, including things like flights, hotels, tours, campgrounds, car rentals, cruises, vacation rentals, and much, much more. More specifically, the most important one for me at that time was Airbnbs. Yes, Airbnbs, VRBOs, these kind of home share apps will code towards the 3x on the Amex green card. So for somebody at this time where I was like, I'm not going to stay in hotels, I'm going to be booking Airbnbs for life. And even at one point, I actually once considered, why would we go rent an apartment when we have to put down, a deposit to get in? They have to do credit checks. They have to do all these different things. We have to furnish it. Why would I not just book out of Airbnbs full time, where you can pay probably the same amount, or even if it's slightly more, maybe it's 20% more to pay every single month for an Airbnb versus an apartment, but you don't have to furnish it, you don't have to pay all the insurances associated with it, you don't have to deal with other people, you have a whole house to yourself. And at that time, I didn't realize you could pay with credit cards, but I guess I figured you could get 3x back on the Amex green card if it's an Airbnb purchase. So all of these different things combined, and I guess in the back of my head, I also thought if it's $2,000 every single month on the Amex green card, that's $6,000 every single month in points back, or 72,000 points every single year just by living out of Airbnbs full time. And you get the flexibility of not having to sign a yearly lease on an apartment, right? You could just month to month, and you could just leave the Airbnb at any time you want. And at least at that time, there wasn't like crazy cleaning fees, so basically they footed that bill. It's different nowadays. And then also at the time, I saw that it had like, $189 clear credit, right? I was like, oh, Clear would be very, very cool. Again, if I'm going to an airport and I want to do the biometric scanning, I could get through the TSA lines way, way quicker. Like, oh yeah, Clear is very, very cool. And as upon scrolling through a little bit more, I realized they had something called the Lounge Buddy credit. Essentially, it's $100 every single year on that card that you can pretty much use towards all of the lounges that a lot of these other cards might give you for free. And they even mentioned here, it's like you have access to any of the lounges on the Lounge Buddy network, which is fairly extensive. You could see all of the ones on the screen right here. So a pretty decent amount, and ones that, you know, maybe if you have a platinum card, you don't have to pay for. But it says no memberships, elite statuses, or first class tickets required. You'll receive up to $100 in statement credits per year on your Lounge Buddy purchases. So if the lounge is $50 to get in, you can get into 2 separate lounges, or just you and your spouse can get into that lounge completely for free just by holding the Amex Green Card. And another thing too, just being a New Yorker and just living in New York, I looked at the 3x back on transit category as kind of like, oh, that's pretty powerful, right? Like if I'm going to be taking the train to the ferry, or if I have to take a taxi cab, or any of these rideshare services like Uber and Lyft, ferries, tolls, parking, buses, subways, all of these different things that are way more accessible in New York, I'm also going to be getting 3x back and all that, so it just seemed like totally value add, just easy money. And then also the 3x back dining on restaurants, it didn't really matter to me because I already had the Amex Gold Card at that time. So just those benefits alone, plus at that time it had a record high welcome offer of 45,000 Amex points after spending, I think it was just $2,000 on the card in the first 3 months of opening it. So this just seemed like the easiest decision of my life to actually get this card. So pretty much no later than just like, I don't know, a half hour of researching the card and just making sure I could use all of it and doing all the numbers, I ended up applying and was approved, baby. So yes, we did get the Amex Green Card back on that July summer in 2020. But isn't it funny how life changes, right? And this is where I kind of urge a lot of you guys to kind of look out a little bit to the future, if possible, and to realize and be way more conservative than you ever thought possible, right? So what ended up happening after I got that card? So basically, I hit the welcome offer, got the 45,000 points. That was easy value, right? That was fine. But would you guys be surprised to hear that after I got that card and after I spent those $2,000, I actually didn't use the card at all for years after just getting approved for that card. That card sat dormant in my, wallet at home in the sock drawer for years until I eventually canceled it in, I believe, 2023. Yeah, that's what happened. So 2 things in my life changed from that date. And basically what happened was, one, right after that stay in that Airbnb, we stayed at another Airbnb also in kind of upstate New York with quite literally one of the scariest experiences that we've ever had in our entire lives. So we booked this Airbnb. It was a cheap stay that we decided to book because we only needed an overnight stay to get to where we wanted to go. So what did I do? I booked that Airbnb and it was a mistake. It was a very big mistake. Upon pulling up to the house, I realized there were no lights and no sense of civilization whatsoever, and a really dark path about a half a mile to get to this guy's house. So what do? We drove down the really dark path, pulled in. All of a sudden, bam, big fog lights pop up, and I see a shadow of a man, a silhouette, standing at some glass windows behind us, to which I get out and I say, hey, name. I'm not going to say his name. And he says, oh, you made it, huh? You found the place. Which is like a little, okay, maybe he's had some people before, fine, it's a funny joke. Cool. Mind you, this is like midnight, and he stayed up for us just to give us a tour of his Airbnb. So just take you through just a quick story of what happened here because it's scary. Basically, we walked into this Airbnb with this guy, we'll call him John, and John takes us through his house, and the first thing we notice, and you can probably see it on screen right here, is just weird artwork. Like really, really weird artwork. Like I'm seeing genitalia showing on some of these statues and there's faces staring at us. There's some devil worshipping type stuff. So really, really scary stuff in this Airbnb with like an old antique fridge. And he's basically just taking us through this house. When he shows us the bedroom, he shows like, and I look at the top window in the bedroom and he's like, oh, you see that? There's all dirt at that window. Basically, we're built into the side of a mountain. So sleeping here is like sleeping 6 feet under. Who else would say that but a serial killer? Seriously? No one else but a serial killer who thinks they're being smart and like, oh, they're not going to understand would say something like that. And that wasn't it. That wasn't it. And then he shows us, he gives us a tour for maybe 15 minutes. Very nice guy, by the way. He's very personable. He looks cool. Maybe in his 60s, years old, something like that. And he eventually, just shows us the entire place. Says, all right, let me know if you need me. And he climbs up the stairs and he walks up, doon, 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 doon. And then I looked at my wife and I'm like, wait a second. I didn't hear a door. I didn't hear anything. He just walked up and he was gone. He was into his house. I was like, I would not be surprised if there's like a quick little staircase hallway right into his house. And this way he can just come down with a sledgehammer at any time and play whack-a-mole with us, right? He could just do this at any time and we'll have no idea because there's no door dividing us between us and him, right? It's just a divided house. So I'm really freaked out at this point. And then I look again and I turn to my left and I say, what the hell is that door right there? And I look at that door, and it's a red door with no handles whatsoever, with a picture of unfortunately, his late wife. And he told us that story. His late wife would make all these sculptures and these paintings and whatnot. And this was her creative outlet, and him renting this out was keeping her memory alive. And I get it. That's a really nice story. I feel bad that he unfortunately lost his wife, and it's great artwork. But in the middle of the night, looking at a red door with no handle, with a guy who just said was sleeping 6 feet under, that's scary. I'm sorry, but that's freaking scary. So I didn't even want to sit down on any furniture. I didn't want to do anything. I literally said, let's grab our bags and let's leave. And we got in the car and we hightailed it out of there. We ran and then I texted him like, oh, there's a family emergency. We got to go back home. He says, all right, well, thanks for staying. Something like that. So book again next time. I was like, okay. See you later, John. Appreciate you, man. So what did we end up doing after that? And this story is relevant because, well, what did we end up doing right after that? Because we needed a place to stay. We booked our old, reliable Hampton Inn, baby, like 10 minutes away. Hampton Inn, we were like, oh, we finally made it. And we walked in and we were so relieved. We were like, finally, civilization, away from crazy things and scary things. We thought we were going to die. And we talked to the front receptionist who's working at this Hilton Hampton Inn. We tell him the story, and because we were so shooken up, she said, I am so sorry for this. You know what? I'm going to give you 2 free complimentary bottles of champagne for your troubles. And I was like, what? I was like, really? Just because we told you a story and it's like now 1 a.m.? Thank you so much. This is amazing. And from that moment on, literally from that moment on, we have never booked an Airbnb since. And it has only been hotels, and that has kind of spurred me to staying at all of these hotels that I have recently. All the way from that Hampton Inn to now, just, a few weeks ago, the Waldorf Astoria in Washington, D.C. And that kind of spurred on why we stopped doing Airbnbs and only did hotels from then on. And of course, all of the points and miles associated that helped us book all these stays over those years. Why is that story relevant? Well, one of the main reasons why I got the Amex green card in the first place was that 3x multiplier on Airbnbs. I wasn't getting that anymore, right? And then as I'm booking more and more things with points, I'm not paying with cash to book any of these hotels. I haven't booked a hotel in cash, technically, in a very long time. So I haven't needed a multiplier for hotels at all. So the Amex green card, now that's null and void. The 3x is completely null and void. Also during this time, from 2020 till about 2023, I didn't fly at all. No flights whatsoever, at all. You guys know this. I was just a really irresponsible credit card holder. Didn't travel whatsoever, and then ended up foregoing for 3 years that Lounge Buddy credit of $100. I never ended up using it whatsoever. So even right there, the value that I thought I was getting back from the $100 Lounge Buddy credit also was null and void because I didn't travel as much as I expected to in that 3-year period. So again, bam, X that out as well. Lounge Buddy credit gave me no benefits. It was just eating into the profits of that welcome offer I got at the very, very beginning, right? Thus losing all of the value that I initially calculated out when I first got that card. Not only that, but what also happened just a couple of years after getting the Amex green card, well, something I never thought would have happened, which was I moved away from New York City. I didn't have access to the 3x transit multiplier anymore because now in South Carolina, there are no trains and transit and ferries and tolls and all these different things. I mean, there are some tolls, but there's really very few. Not like, in New York where you have Easy Pass everywhere and stuff like that. So completely everything I got the Amex green card for back in 2020 was completely rendered useless just about 2 years later. completely useless whatsoever. And that's why it's really important to, I guess, one, if you can see the future and see the writing on the wall of where you're going or how your habits are every single year, being able to adapt and reevaluate your annual fees every single year has led me to at least not bleed as much as I could have bled on this specific card. And you guys saw I actually did it on a YouTube video, I guess maybe over a year ago now, where I actually ended up canceling my Amex Green Card finally after paying so many annual fees.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. It's trash.
Pretty much all this did was delay the inevitable rest of this said credit card. So really, guys, don't be scared like me. Just bite the bullet and get rid of this card. It blew up. It was a little late, and I should have done it sooner, but at least that's out of my life now. And before I go into exactly why I think the Amex Green Card might be a more valuable card to me today, before that, I want to go into exactly what I did in between, and you guys will find this interesting because there's a little bit of a strategy that you guys have never heard before that might get you really insane value. So just really quick, basically the Amex Green Card, right? For years, everyone said, oh, you can't downgrade the Amex Green Card to anything, right? It's $150 annual fee, and you can't go to a $0 annual fee, right? You can't do that anymore. Well, your boy Anthony found out a way to actually downgrade the Amex Green Card more. In comes the Amex traditional green card, baby. And you guys have known, I've talked about this on the channel a couple of times, but for those who don't know, you can downgrade the Amex Green Card to the Amex traditional card, and you can see the difference, right? This is an homage to like the original 1960s Amex traditional green card that first came out at that time, so that's the homage. But you guys probably know what I found out. If you're eligible, you can talk to the chat on Amex, and you can actually ask to downgrade your green card to this traditional green card. And essentially all this does is basically gives you this cool looking card, so it's a cool memento, but it's also a $55 annual fee card that also gets removed from the membership awards program. That's right, it does earn back like a couple points here and there on travel and whatnot, but the points are separate from earning Amex points. It earns its own separate points that could only be redeemed for cashback, I believe, so it's really weird. I never really used it. And then if you wanted to, you could technically pay $50, so now your original kind of $95 annual fee, and it gives you access to the membership awards points portal, and then you start earning Amex points again. And the reason I got this, not because it looks cool, but there's actually a greater strategy that I thought was very, very interesting, and I think a lot of other people agree, is say you didn't want to pay an annual fee anymore on, for example, an Amex Platinum card at $6.95, and, you know, maybe use some credits, whatnot, but you want to actually downgrade that. Theoretically, what you could do is downgrade the Platinum card to the normal green card, right? Just the normal green card. You have to do that first. That's the way it works. Go down to the Amex Green Card. And then once you have the green card, downgrade that, ask them again to downgrade to the traditional green card. So two different downgrades that you have to do for this method. Downgrade to the traditional green card of $55, act as a placeholder, and say that you love the platinum card, but maybe you want to use it down the line, or you're trying to just milk some extra benefits. Theoretically, what you could do is downgrade this to the $55 annual fee card, right? And say you did this in like, I don't know, February, something like that. And say you actually waited all the way until December. Maybe call it like December 20th, right? Like getting closer to the end of the year. What you could theoretically have happen is have to upgrade to the green card, and then what a lot of people notice is when you have the green card or the gold card, is American Express every now and again will give you an offer of like maybe 25 to 100,000 points to upgrade your green card to a platinum card. So you can almost essentially get another welcome offer just by upgrading to that platinum card again. And not only that, but if you do that, and now you have a platinum card in December, the end of December, you're also going to get all of the credits associated, right? You're going to get the hotel credits, you're going to get the airline credits, the entertainment credits, Uber Eats credits. And what you're going to do is get all these credits, right? But the major ones are the airline credits and the hotel credits, and maybe even Saks, whatever. And you'll have that because now it's a new card. So now what you can do is what Sledge did in a video once, which was he ended up booking a hotel out with the hotel credit, booking, United Travel Bank with the airline fee credit, right? And then once January hits, it's a new calendar year, you get another $200 hotel credit and then another $200 airline credit that you can also book out and use that for infinite value. And then from there, who knows, maybe you can downgrade again. That's what Sledge did. Or you can just keep the platinum card, thereafter. But you will have essentially double dipped all of your credits. and you would have saved the $650 in annual fees by keeping that $55 placeholder for all this time. And you didn't have to reapply for another platinum card and what have you, so ruining your 524 status. So a lot of benefits to that little trick, and I don't know if anyone's actually tried this so far, but I know there have been a lot of people in the comments who did actually do this trick and now has a traditional green card as a placeholder, and I think they are planning to do this method. So I think it's interesting. What do you guys think down below? Is it interesting? Is it stupid? Who knows? And I guess in between there were a lot of, ups and downs with the green card, I guess we'll call it. We kind of burned it, ran it over, we technically buried it, I buried it for like a while, and then I had to go and, go dig up the dirt, and eventually it came back. So that's why it kind of looks the way it does. But then you might be wondering, like, Anthony, you said maybe it's worth it to you now. So 2024, Anthony, it might be worth, but 2020 it wasn't. And I would say possibly, right? So let me go through it. So basically nowadays, you actually have heightened welcome offers. So, if I was eligible again, I could easily get maybe 60,000 points. I think the current offer is 40,000 right now, so just slightly below what I got it for back then. For now, an elevated $3,000 worth of spend, so about 50% more than what I did when I first got the card. But not only that, but since becoming more of a traveler, or as Luke says, more of a person, I have been able to kind of experience a little bit more in the travel world. So now that $189 in clear credit that I actually did use on my Amex Platinum card not too long ago was pretty beneficial, especially flying that, recently. I was able to, clear lines way, way quicker. So that would be a value to me. I don't know if I would ascribe like a full 189 for it. I probably would buy that outright, to be honest, nowadays. But, now that I have cards, I'm spoiled. So I would ascribe good value to that. Lounge Buddy, absolutely would definitely use nowadays. Even though I do get in for free with the Platinum card, there are some cases where maybe we want to go to a different lounge and maybe we don't get it for free and I have to get my wife in or something, and that's a $50 fee. So easily would save us a good amount of money just by using that Lounge Buddy credit as well. So I think easily nowadays we'd probably be able to use the full brunt of that $100. As I'm traveling more and more and going to some of these cities, I'm kind of using these rideshare services a lot more. And for the most part, I'm using like the Built card to get 2x on Lyft, but for the other rideshare services, I'm not really getting much else. But if I had the Amex Green card, I could definitely see a world where I'm getting 3x back on transit through all these different places that I have been going to recently. Of course, parking garages all the time I'm going to nowadays, especially where I'm in South Carolina now. I got to pay for that all the time. So that's decent multipliers right there. And I guess one other reason that doesn't affect me, but maybe affects you guys, is the family language that has been added, recently. Back in 2020, there was no family language, meaning I literally got things all out of order. I think I got the gold card, then the platinum, then the green, or maybe it was like gold, green, platinum, one of those two, but basically all out of order. But nowadays, Amex basically punishes you if you get a platinum card. If you get a platinum card first, okay, you just forewent now the Amex Gold welcome offer and also the Amex Green welcome offer. So for those of you guys who are just kind of getting started out with American Express, Amex Green card kind of makes sense. Even if it doesn't make sense and you just want it for the welcome offer, I guess that could make sense too. But that's where you kind of want to have to climb that American Express ladder, where you start with the green card first. Okay, cool. Get your 40,000, get your 60,000 welcome offers, use Lounge Buddy, use all these credits. If it doesn't make sense to you, okay, cool. You could always cancel it, and then you could apply for the gold card, get that welcome offer, and then, so on and so forth. So that's also a big reason why, if you're going to get into American Express and you're not already, you might want to start with the green card, because the welcome offers well exceed all the annual fees on those cards anyway. So I always think it's easy value proposition. Even if you're only going to keep it for a year, of course, if it makes sense to you, keep it for 2-3 years like I did. And honestly, just because that 3x travel category is just so broad and it doesn't have to be, through any particular portals, I think that's also an inherent value add. I'm somebody who's not paying too much cash nowadays for any of these different things, but I know a lot of you are. So if you are booking all of these different travel-related expenses or transit-related expenses, these multipliers can really stack up and give you a ton of value just going forward in just your daily, weekly, monthly spend, however much you're actually traveling. And if you don't already have like an Amex Gold card, or you don't have some other cards that give you dining back multipliers, like a Saver One, what have you, you could also get 3x back on dining restaurants right here, right? So pretty generous card, and it pretty much encompasses like a wide range of your entire travel experience. And of course, you guys love to know no foreign transaction fees, right? It's a travel card. Why would it have a foreign transaction fee? You'd be surprised, honestly. So that's basically my story, and hopefully that aids you in your decision making. And if you actually do decide that you want to get the Amex green card, I'll leave it on the screen right here in the QR code, or it's always down in the pinned comment down below. And if you do, I'll give you a hearty handshake in advance, and I thank you very, very much. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm going to go bury this card again, so I'll be back.